We were all getting ready, and it was relatively warm in Japan, so we had dressed appropriately for the day of walking around in humid heat. That is to say, Nick, Jewel, and I did. Neko walked out the bathroom wearing a frilly black and red Lolita dress with cat ears and a collar with a huge bell and platform heels. Despite our efforts to tell her the outfit wasn't appropriate for both the weather and the location, she ignored us and stormed out of the hotel. The day went by somewhat okay. We got a crap ton of glares and weird looks from people not because we were foreigners, but because Neko was dressed ridiculously and was obnoxiously rude and loud, going kawaii and nah at everything. When we were alone without her, people didn't pay any mind to us. They continued on for the rest of the day, and when it came to getting lunch, we decided on a ramen restaurant. Neko pouted because it wasn't like she'd imagined the noodle bar from Naruto. Instead, the place we went to was a really nice small building with about 10 tables with chairs. We ordered our lunch, sat down to wait. When our food came, Neko immediately shouted, "Iradeku nesu na," making everyone stare at our table. I wanted to shrivel up and die from embarrassment then and there. I apologized to the staff profusely after Neko left to use the bathroom. They were very polite, but I felt so embarrassed about the whole thing. This went on for days, and some of the highlights include Neko throwing a temper tantrum because all the tourists kept on getting in the way of our pictures, Neko getting into an argument with Jewel over dinner because Jewel had ordered steak and not something Japanese, even though the only traditional Japanese dish on the menu that night was sushi, and Jewel doesn't like raw fish. And finally, the last highlight was what nearly got us arrested, was chasing after her and grabbing hold of a geisha who clearly was on her way to a scheduled party with a client, all because she wanted a photo. The geisha was clearly distraught, and the local shop owners nearby told Neko off while escorting the geisha on her way to keep her from getting grabbed again. Now, geishas do not mind stopping for photos if they're not in a hurry, but do not under any circumstances grab them. They threatened to call the police on Neko, so we had to get the hell out of there. After returning to the hotel after the last incident, she had the audacity to start whining about how the geisha was so rude for not stopping for a photo. Nick had had enough. He had grabbed all of Neko's stuff and threw it out into the hall, telling her to get out. After a half an hour of Neko whining and crying and apologizing and begging, we agreed to let her back into the hotel, saying one more incident, and she was going to be spending the rest of her time in Japan without us. She agreed that she would behave after that, and she did until we arrived in Tokyo, where we would be spending our final 4 days before flying back home. We had stayed in a very luxurious hotel that Jewel had surprised us all with by spending a little extra of her own money to make the trip extra memorable. We arrived in Tokyo early, so immediately we wanted to explore. Jewel and myself had booked an appointment to get our hair cut and colored by a hair artist we both admired and followed on Instagram. Nick, meanwhile, wanted to check out Akihabara, and he didn't want to go alone with Neko, plus he was more interested in checking out all the popular thrift stores near the salon where we would be getting our hair done. Neko threw an absolute fit, because she wanted to check out the anime district. We told her that we would be going there the next day, but if she wanted to go so badly, she could go by herself then, and we'd have other things to do. Neko did just that and thankfully left us alone for most of the day. Jewel and myself got our hair done. Jewel got her curly hair shaved off on both sides and colored to look like a pastel rainbow curly mohawk. I nearly fainted when I saw the drastic change, but it suited her so well that I spent the whole time ogling her as her hair was done. I got an undercut done, but kept my hair long and had it colored different shades of pastel green. After our appointment, we met up with Nick, who had a couple bags filled with clothes and shoes. We didn't hear from Neko until 6 at night. She texted me asking where to meet up, and I told her we would meet up at the robot restaurant, which, in all honesty, we had actually gotten lost looking for because I misread the directions Victor sent us. And when we finally found it, it was like stepping into another world. Seriously, like, if you like one thing in Japan to come to, here is insane and the food is delicious. So we ordered a few drinks, sat opening the atmosphere and just enjoying everything around us when we hear, "Sumimasen! Sumimasen!" We turned to see Neko rushing towards us, her arms way down with bags of merch, all of which were bumping into people and even knocked some poor women's drink over, shattering the glass, which we had to pay for. Neko dumped her shit right in the walkway between tables and sat down. "Oh, is this mine?" she says, grabbing Jewel's drink, to which Jewel snatched it back, spilling a little. "No. Buy your own food. If you have any money left, that is," she said, looking at the bags. "Fine. I thought you might have been a decent friend for once and bought it for me." Before any of us could tell her off, Jewel stood up and poured her drink on Neko's head before setting her glass down and walking off, but not before stopping to apologize to the lady whose drink Neko had knocked over. She assured the woman that none of us were happy being around her. The woman said it was okay and said she saw how upset we were over her. After Neko cleaned herself up in the bathroom and I calmed Jewel down, I bought her a drink and we sat down and had our dinner before going back to the hotel. Neko didn't say anything for the rest of the night, and she knew Jewel was well at her breaking point. The next day, we were all going to Akihabara. Neko was again dressed as a maid-style Lolita dress despite it being 35 degrees Celsius outside. Pretty much really hot, in other words. When I asked her why she was willing to wear something so hot, she replied with, "Because all the cute Japanese guys here will think I'm super cute." "Either that or you're from a budget maid cafe," Jewel said, still pissed off towards her. Neko quickly spoke up before things could really get any more heated, saying things like we should go before it gets any hotter outside. We had a really great time in Akihabara. For the most part, Neko left us alone again. We bought games, checked out the cosplay shop, and had a look at the manga, and we soon, getting bored, through and decided to go and have a look at the Pokemon Center. We had text Neko and tell her where we were going, and she texted back saying it's okay. We were looking around at the Pokemon Center, as Jewel loves Pokemon and bought herself a few card decks and some plushies, most noteworthy a Clefairy she bought herself and a Rowlet plushie she bought for me. Nick was picking out most of his stuff when he suddenly gets a text from Neko. "Nick, can I borrow some money? I don't have enough left for a cab." Nick's text back, "Wait here, I'll come get you," before looking at us like he was ready to explode. She blew all her money on freaking anime. We told him that he should just make her walk back. But he's a nice guy, despite all the shit she's been putting us through, and he went and got her and brought her back to the Pokemon Center where we were still looking at everything. Neko sat and waited for us, pouting because she couldn't buy anything, and she even asked us to lend her money to buy stuff. We said no. That night, she managed to convince her mom to deposit some money onto her card, but her mom, being a responsible woman, only put enough there for food and travel. Her daughter had already purchased a heap of useless junk for herself. She wasn't going to give her money for any more junk. The next day, we were going to hit Harajuku. Jewel was so excited. She adores the fashion in Harajuku, and there was so many stores she wanted to visit. I'll give you an idea of her outfit, as this is important to what happens later. She had her pastel mohawk curled into many victory rolls, a casual Alita blouse, a pastel pink fox leather jacket, a gold Clefairy necklace I had bought her after our first year together, a pair of pastel loose jeans, and a pair of iridescent platform creepers with a vintage Kids Club Jigglypuff backpack. She looked like a pastel fairy-type master ready to take on Harajuku. And Neko wore a shitty Lolita dress that she had clearly purchased off eBay. Her hair was in pigtails with cheap cat ears and a tail and collar. She looked like the stereotypical white weeaboo. So we finished getting ready and we hit Harajuku. Immediately, people are stopping and asking for pictures of Jewel, Nick, and even myself, mostly because they loved my hair. Seriously, Japan hairstylists are incredible. My hair doesn't bleach well, and they handled it with such care that it turned out great and was really amazing. While we were getting stopped for plenty of pictures, Neko was not. And she was pissed. She started trying to squeeze her way into photos, but the photographers always told her to go away and wait her turn. Eventually, Neko threw a temper tantrum once more, shouting how it was unfair that we were getting so much attention, and that her outfit was much better than all of ours put together. Jewel promptly shouted back, "Will you shut up? This whole trip, you've done nothing but act like a complete and utter asshole. Maybe if it actually respect for other people, it'd get the positive attention you'd want. Neko stomped her foot and shouted back, I don't need to take any of this crap from you fucking ugly bakas. Come and find me when you're ready to apologize, she said before storming off. None of us could believe what happened. Now let's fast forward 30 minutes. Nick, Jewel, and myself were all in one of the many stores lining Harajuku. Jewel had picked out what she wanted and went to go pay when her heart dropped to her stomach. Her wallet was gone. Myself and Nick didn't have it, and she had put it in her bag the night before so she wouldn't forget it. Jewel immediately knew where it was and told the store clerk to please hold her items and that she would be right back. All three of us ran from the store and frantically around Harajuku. We asked people if they'd seen Neko, describing her to them. Jewel was in a state of panic and didn't even notice one of the photographers from before come up to her until she spoke. Now he had said what was wrong, and when he explained the situation, pointed out that Neko was going from store to store looking for a place that would accept PayWave. The thing with Jewel's cards are anything under $100 can be paid for without the PIN number, and thankfully all the stores Neko was going to only sold items over $100, and none of them had anything below $100 that Neko liked either. The photographer had pointed us to the last store Neko was going to. We thanked him and took off to that location as we entered and saw Neko browsing through items. She already had a huge pile of clothing on her arm, and Jewel stormed in, grabbed a hold of Neko before ripping her bag off of her shoulder and opening it. And sure enough, her wallet was inside. Jewel then shouted at the top of the lungs, "You thief!" back. The store clerk asked what was happening, and we explained back to her in Japanese that Neko had stolen Jewel's wallet and had been attempting to spend her money. We also said that unless Neko wants to spend the money she was for food and transport, she won't be able to pay for the clothing either. The store clerk then kicked Neko out. Neko shouted at Jewel, saying that she was going to pay her back. Jewel snapped at her, screaming, "You do not have my permission to take my money. You do not have my permission to spend it either. I'm not buying you anything. We don't owe you anything," she shouted and continued. "I am so sick of your BS. You have been a complete ass this entire time. We're here to enjoy ourselves, not just to do what you want," she screamed before storming off back to the shop she had originally been in. She bought her things, and we spent the rest of the day wandering around Harajuku with Nuko slowly walking behind. While we arrived back at the hotel, Jewel grabbed all of Neko's things and threw them out into the hall. This time, we did not let her back in. Neko ended up staying at a different hotel to spend her last days in Japan alone. In the end, she got what she wanted, a double bed to herself. We didn't see Neko for the rest of our trip, and the next time we saw her was at the airport waiting for the board of our flight. We all ignored her. After arriving home, Neko tried to be chummy with us again, as if nothing had happened. All of us blocked her, and we haven't seen her since. I've never seen Jewel so angry before in my life, and I don't know what snapped in Neko's mind for her to go from a normal anime fan to a massive weeb like that. Maybe she had always been like that, but because we never really spent long periods of time together, she hid it from us. I don't know, and in all honesty, I could care less. Her friendship was no cost for me. Anyways, thanks for reading this vivid, and sorry if it's so long like the other story, but I tried my best to keep it as short as possible. Keep up the narration, and I really get excited when I get a new notification of a new video. Whew! It's true, that was a long story, but that was wild. That was just insane. Like, I can't imagine having to go through all that stress when all you wanted was a vacation. Like, that's just insane. But thank you for sending me these updates. Thank you for sending me this story. And while I don't hope you send another one just because I don't want you to go through with any more I don't want you to end up experiencing any more of that weeb stuff, I do hope to hear you again just to hear that you guys are still okay, that you're having fun, and that basically you're living a good life. Thank you for your stories.